Eleftherios Hadjivanou is the former global social media director, manager for Mercedes-Benz. And next to him is Nathaniel Hansen, who has a company called The Socializers. By the way, Lefty now has a company called The Peopleizers. He's got one called The Socializers. And Nat is more on the analytical side, the research side, the information side of the social web. And Lefty and Nat are going to be doing a presentation together which will give all of us some kind of insight as to how social media might work in practice. Okay, because finally all this stuff has got to happen. It's got to happen inside an environment called the corporate environment.
First of all, I'd like to introduce you to someone special to me. He's a friend and we started doing business. Nathaniel Hansen is the CEO of The Socializers, and if you ask me, the leading social intelligence guy in the world, and I love working with him because he provides the data that is so valuable to me.
It's been an honor to get to know Eleftherios Hadjivanou, whose practice, The Peopleizers, has grown out of his experience with brands like Mercedes and global clothing brands as well, where he's been a pioneer in terms of the social growth of those brands.
Yes, if you look at this title, we are moving from Wall Street to Love Street, and it's summing up what we heard throughout the morning. We heard about the thank you economy. We heard about that pushing may be dangerous, rather enchant people. We have heard about the media landscape in Turkey, and we've heard about great tools like Google Pages. What we want to do with this presentation is get into action now. Bake, like Guy Kawasaki wants us to do, bakers. Let's bake now. The reason why we are here is not only because we have great tools and knowledge to share with you, it's a real story. I met Nathaniel on YouTube. He watched the video of me, he got in touch with me, and that's how the whole thing started. Today we are standing here and we have done tons of projects together which help our clients to move forward in the social web. So stop doubting, this is not the future, it's real, it's now. Also, remember, relationship creates transactions. We want the money of our customers at the end of the day, but the process is social. And also keep in mind that you're dealing with human beings. And one example I always love to bring up when it comes to human behavior and decisions. The Homo economicus is not that rational at all. Think about women. I have to use this cliche. Women in shoes, right? There's never enough shoes. You know, women open up their closet in the morning and, oh my God, I have nothing to wear. And this brings me to the next slide. I had the honor to meet Tony Hsieh at the Zappos headquarters at the end of 2010 when we did a tour there. And he is really the role model of the new CEO. If you want to move forward in this space, it has to be done not only bottom up, but also top down. It's a cultural change that it needs, but we will talk about that later. Nat, would you please give us an overview now?
Sure. So when we're moving into the social web, one of the best things to do is to listen. And we build out of our listening, what we hear through social monitoring tools, for example, our strategy. A strategy based on listening, it tends to be more effective than one based upon not listening. If I'm listening to myself as a marketing director and not to the customer, I may be less effective. After we build our strategy, we're able to enter and act in the social web more effectively. And we're able to engage at that point. And then as we engage, there's an opportunity to adapt to the conversations that are happening. The customer and myself, if I'm the marketing director, we change together. Something changes in that conversation. And that's the real win. And that's what's happening in the world right now, with countries like Egypt as an example. Change is happening through these kinds of transformations and adaptations.
Okay, before we jump into this process, the step-by-step approach, how we guide you through the process, please keep in mind, I wanted really bad to bring up this chart. When we deal with our clients, what we see a lot of times is they actually don't know what business they're in. So really, make sure you know your business. Why you're on the market, why people love or hate you, and what is so special about you. Know your business model before you enter. It's basic stuff, but we see it every time. Also, don't think, because this is a marketing conference, and by the way I learned marketing was in the old school way. I was doing TV and print campaigns first at Mercedes-Benz. So, don't think of it as a campaign. Okay, it is a process, it's a cultural change, it's a transformation, and it's, if you put it into the more geeky word, it's an operating system of a computer and not a program you run.
So one of the great opportunities, like I said before, is listening. And when we listen into the social web, into this wheel of different social properties, we have opportunities that may not have existed before. One of my pet projects is one called the Worldwide Mind, where I'm listening to every single social property I can, and I'm listing out of that social property in spreadsheets the influencers by hierarchy. This is an example of a global yoga star from Los Angeles who asked me to do exactly that. Because she wanted to have a conversation with people in Twitter, in YouTube, in Facebook, and lots of other social properties. And we have a dashboard like this, where you're moving across the board through the different social properties. You're getting a sense of the tenor and the context and the flavor of your market sector. So when we're building strategy out of that kind of basis, we tend to be a lot more effective. Think about what happened when these 4 companies listened. Starbucks had My Starbucks idea, and the customer got to tell the leadership of Starbucks what they wanted to drink, how they wanted the Starbucks outlets to look like. It was the real third space, as they call it, experience. Look at Lego. In Lego, online, you could design something and you could socialize that. And your buddy, and your friends, and your cousins could ask their mom and dad too to do that as well for them. Nice gift idea. And everybody heard about it. Of course, Zappos is a fantastic online customer service company, as we've heard today before. The classic story is that one time when somebody was on the phone too long and they got a pizza order for them. That's great customer service. And then finally, we have that story where Jeff Jarvis was blogging about Dell. And Dell said, we're going to turn towards Jeff and bring him in and speak directly to our customer and please these customers. It's a journey. Now, when you're beginning in the social web, there's a couple of properties that are really important, obviously. Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are all important, and LinkedIn can be very important too. And that's a kind of steady, basic process. But there's other opportunities too, as we've heard today, with Foursquare and other properties. But starting with the basics is very important.
One thing that is also important, now that we understood the social web and what people are talking about, now that we know what we want to do, it is sales. Now that we know the data and we know where to find our influencers, we need to get the team on board. And although Mr. Edison didn't embrace rules that much as we can read here, I really suggest that you first get the team on board by creating guidelines or a social media policy which allows everybody to understand what it is that you want to do. And then it's time to act. And we heard it in the last presentation as well, what the role of people is, you know. I mean, technology is a means, but at the end of the day, people are using these tools to reach other human beings. And that's why it's really important that you gather a passionate team of people and you not just outsource your efforts to an agency. I mean, we're consulting, right? So we would love to help and take over some parts of the pain, you know. And we do, but in the long run, you have to do it yourself. We try to help for self-help. So it is really important that you gather a passionate team of people who can deliver to the customer's needs. And look, talking about people, new roles have emerged, and one of them is the social media manager. I grew into this role at Mercedes-Benz by accident, let's say. We never defined the job description of this job. I was asked to pioneer, and I had the opportunity to do that, and it was fun. I was a one-man show in the beginning, a white piece of paper, and then guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and other people, and I looked what they're doing, and I tried to make sense for the brand of Mercedes-Benz, how to tap into that. What is the role of the social media manager? I like to use the picture of a bridge that, you know, connects the inside and the outside of a business. He's also a translator, because the customer voice and the user voice is not always what the engineer or the product manager wants to hear or will understand. So he's kind of a filter. He's translating. If the customer say, hey, this product feature sucks, then he might put it in a way that the product manager who loves this product so much doesn't reject it, but embrace it as an improvement. And yeah, it's, for me, one of the key roles in social media engagement. If you want to move forward, make sure that you define one person that connects the dots, that is the bridge and translates. And also, really, really important, and that's what I experienced myself, change maker. He's a change maker as well. Imagine now, you're in a corporate world where certain rules apply, there's a certain understanding of metrics and how we measure success. We've heard a lot about the return on investment and the way we did things in the past, you know. And now there's the social media manager who needs to make sense out of, for example, why it is so important to use Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to be in touch with your customer. And it's not done by just applying the knowledge we had of the past. And one other example is, if you just try to measure success with the means and the ways we did in the past, then you will fail, because it's different. One example is, and this is from a CEO at a fashion company. He was like really pissed off. You know what? Now we have a team 6 months working on our social media efforts, and you know what? We still have just 40,000 fans on Facebook. Our competitors got millions. What's happening there? And then the social media manager could dive a little bit deeper into that. And what the result was that with a lower fan base, they reached more people than the bigger brand with millions of fans, because they looked at the interaction rates. People, that was an engaged community, they really cared, they contributed, they liked, they commented, they shared, they invited friends, versus the million fans who were kind of fan zombies, who were gathered with sweepstakes, you know, win the next iPad or whatever. So there's a difference, and we need to look deeper into it. Now, I would like to pass to you again to tell us what it is to learn and adapt.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah. So that spreadsheet that you saw earlier that was taken out of the worldwide mind can then be brought into control panels. Let's talk about Radiant 6, let's talk about TweetDeck, let's talk about Hootsuite. These are examples of bringing together intelligence with control panels. Some basic names. Lots of others in the market too. The point of this operations center here is to take all of that intelligence and then engage. I'm engaging in this pool of customers. I'm engaging with these warm leads over here. That spreadsheet you saw earlier was a list of warm leads. Hi, Mr. CFO. Hello, social media consultant. What do you got for me today? I've got a list of 100,000 warm leads. Come on in. That's really what the CFO wants to hear. Where are the warm leads?
And tools are also there to simplify our life. I mean, when you start engaging, it gets more and more complicated, and there's a lot of really cool tools out there which you should use.
So obviously, wherever you are in the world, regionally, I'm working in about 5 continents at this point with my company. I have to adapt what platform I'm using. And as I asked earlier, for those of you that were here, to Gary, do I need 8 community managers who are speaking in different languages? I think so. We need to adapt to where we are regionally, and we need to adapt our budgets accordingly. And then finally, this is a fantastic graphic from an agency, graphic agency, Just3 in California, and used by a colleague of mine, Brian Solis, to demonstrate the difference between the old school marketers, that's the blue arrows, who are broadcasting, they're marketeers, they've got too much information, they're like socialites, right? I mean, they're like ego casters, they're climbing up the ladder, versus the white arrows, where I'm a resource, where I'm producing something, where I'm engaging in a conversation with someone as a conversationalist, where I'm providing an answer to a question that someone has. That's the difference. Being the white arrows brings us to the center of the heart, which is about benevolence. You're giving something. That's been said a lot today. When you listen to a conversation to somebody, first, for about 15 minutes, they feel loved and accepted. And then when you say to them, hey, I heard you say this and this and this, and as a result, I'd like to give you this and this. When a brand does that, that's pretty sexy, just like it is in a relationship.
Okay, summing this up, we've seen the steps that you have to take. We first start with listening, gathering data. From there, we use the data and choose how we want to use the social web for our business, which is the strategy. Once we have the strategy, we get the team on board, and then we only enter. Don't make the mistake to take the last step before the first step. When you enter, be flexible, learn. It's a vivid surrounding. There are communities that talk to you, and that's basically the difference. That's what scares us, you know. There's feedback. But use this, embrace it. And yes, we're not 100% always, because we're human beings, but embrace it as a mean and a way to improve your business and your product. And invite the customer to be part of it. I'd like to mention the prosumer, you know, the consumer who is part of production, who can bring in ideas. Imagine if he's part of the engineering process, he has already bought into the product before he can buy it, you know, and he will make sure that the people and friends around him will know when the product is available, and that he was part of the production. This chart should remind us about one thing, which is, yes, it is very important to be creative. This is the bread and butter of our job, right? To be creative. But social media engagement is an ongoing process, as we mentioned already, and this is the basis. And use creativity to create buzz, to create the lighthouse effect, to shine and bring your brand to the awareness and attention of new customers, broader audiences. But what is the foundation is really the basic social media engagement. It's not only the creative process. Saying that, we are coming to the end, and I'd like to use your slogan, the Google page slogan, which we love, that businesses don't make customers happy, people do. And no matter if we use technology for marketing or we are on the customer side researching stuff, the human being is the last mile. Please keep this in mind. Thank you.